You didn't notice it at first. Silence has a way of blending into the walls. He was there, in the chair, behind the door, at the table. Present, but muted. He didn't leave, but something gentle was missing. Maybe he was tired. Maybe he carried more than you could see. Maybe no one ever taught him how to speak the language of feeling. You learned to stop expecting, not out of anger, but as quiet protection. Over time, silence became your second skin, but it didn't mean he didn't care. Sometimes love gets lost in translation. And if you listen closely, now as an adult, you might still hear it, beneath the static. You might even find the words to reply, because the silence that once shaped you doesn't have to define you. And sometimes, even silent fathers are waiting for someone to speak first. Freud believed the father was more than a parent. He was the law, the boundary, the voice that told the child, this far, no further. In psychoanalysis, this is the name of the father, not just a man, but a function. The father represents structure. He is the interruption of desire. Without him, the world feels shapeless, not cruel, not abusive, just undefined. And for many, the absence isn't physical, it's psychological. A man who's there, but never truly enters the emotional space. Freud saw this absence as formative, because when the father is silent, the child doesn't just lose a voice, they lose an anchor. And they begin searching for it elsewhere, in authority figures, in rigid beliefs, or in rebellion itself. A quiet father doesn't stop shaping a child. He just shapes them in shadow. Not all wounds bleed. Some just echo. You've heard people talk about abuse, shouting, hitting, leaving. But what if your pain came not from what was done, but from what was never done? Psychologists call this ambiguous loss, the grief of someone who's physically here, but emotionally gone. Donald Winnicott wrote about this, the not good enough parent. Not violent, not cruel, just not holding the child emotionally. It's hard to name this kind of absence, which is why it lives in the body, in tension, avoidance, unspoken questions. And when you tried to explain it, you were told, at least he stayed. So you built a story, not because it was false, but because it helped you breathe. Maybe he was a quiet protector. Maybe he loved you deeply, just silently. Maybe he didn't know how to reach you, and thought distance was strength. These stories aren't lies. They're myths, psychological bridges we build when real answers feel too far. Jung believed we create inner narratives to survive outer silence. The absent father becomes an archetype, the distant king, the tired warrior, the frozen guardian. Our minds, trying to protect the child inside, fill the space with meaning. He didn't say, "I love you," because maybe no one ever said it to him. He wasn't cold, just afraid to melt. These myths help us survive, but they can also become armor, too heavy to grow in. Not all myths need to be broken. Some just need to be rewritten, with empathy for him and honesty for you. Because one day, you may sit across from that same man and realize he too was waiting for permission to feel. But where's the silence coming from? He learned it from someone too. Your father didn't invent the silence. He inherited it. Maybe his own father never hugged him. Maybe no one asked him how he felt, so he never learned to ask you. He wore it like a uniform, unspoken, invisible, passed down like a watch no longer ticking. It's not that he wanted to disappear emotionally. He just didn't know there was another way to be. And so silence became a tradition. The way some families pass down recipes, yours passed down emotional restraint. He taught you not with words, but with absence. That vulnerability is weakness. That feeling is failure. And you believed it, not because it felt true, but because it was all you ever heard. We live in a culture that still confuses control with strength and detachment with discipline. Boys are taught to man up before they're even taught how to grieve. And what we call stoicism is often just emotional malnutrition. Research shows that men who grew up without emotionally available fathers are more likely to struggle with intimacy, self-regulation, and even identity. This isn't just psychology, it's culture. Bell Hooks called it the crisis of patriarchal masculinity, a system that shames tenderness and glorifies emotional distance. Terence Real calls it the normal trauma of boyhood. It's not always dramatic, but it's deeply wounding. When fathers vanish emotionally, boys often chase that absence into manhood, into achievement, into addiction, into relationships that feel more like reenactments than real connections. Because how do you express a need you were taught not to have? The silence ends with you, not all at once, but gently in small truths spoken aloud. You can't rewrite his story, but you can give new meaning to your own. That ache in your chest, it isn't weakness, it's a signal, a call to become the father, the man, the self he was, and he is, but perhaps didn't know how to show. His absence wasn't always a lack of love. Sometimes it was just an inability to speak the language of feeling. Journaling can give voice to emotions never named. Reparenting can offer the warmth you quietly needed. Family systems therapy can help you trace the silence and choose where it ends. The moment you respond with curiosity instead of blame, you begin to break the pattern. And what once hurt you begins to teach you. Maybe he meant to say something. Maybe he didn't know how. I'm proud of you. I see you. I'm here. But he stayed quiet. And in that quiet, something still reached you. A kind of shape in the silence. You searched for meaning, and slowly, you began to create it. This is not about blame. It's about release. His silence became your mirror, but you don't have to reflect it forever. Healing doesn't mean forgetting the silence. It means choosing what you do with it. The chair was empty. The quiet was real. But now, there is room for your voice. Let it rise. Let it reach. Let it rewrite